All right. Yesterday we're learning. Yesterday we learned, and we're continuing learning the Dvar Malchut, a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in 1992, and this is just months, very shortly before he had a stroke that left him unable to speak. So these speeches are considered to be like the last directions and directive before we carry out the mission that Judaism was brought into the world and why the world was created, to bring Moshiach. So the Rebbe said Moshiach is already here, and all we have to do is open up our eyes and we'll see him, and that the whole world is already ready, and that the quantum mass of Jews have already returned to God, and that all we have to do is just accept Mashiach. Accept. What does it mean, accept? It means basically doing the same work. I mean, you look in the world and you see that the world is in pretty terrible shape. So the Rebbe says that that's just like a thin shell that's over the world, a thin shell. The fact of the matter is that the world is already ready for Mashiach. We just have to talk and think and do everything we can to bring Mashiach. One of the biggest enemies, of course, is what do they call them? I forgot the word. Is the word just left my mind. Anyway, when a person doesn't care, I think of the words. It's a beautiful word, exactly the right word, and it just slipped my mind. When a person just indifference. That's the word, indifference. When a person is indifferent to Mashiach, indifferent. Mashiach is not that important. The most important thing is success. The most important thing is popularity. The most important thing is victory. The most important thing is my plans, etc. Indifference. What about Mashiach? It's a nice thing. God will take care of that. But no, it's not the. It has to be excitement, enthusiasm. Mashiach, amazing thing. Mashiach is going to change the whole world. There's not going to be any more disease, murder, addictions, depression. There won't be any more. That's pretty good, right? That's pretty good. You know how much trillions and trillions of dollars are spent on antidepressants? People, fortunes, trillions of dollars people spend on these weird drugs, and who knows how much they work. But let's not talk about that. What about drugs? How many people are addicted? How much trillions? Who knows how much money is wasted by addictions that people have? What about dishonesty in the world? All these things won't be in. The world can get along really good without dishonesty and addictions and greed. So that's what it says, that Yaakov began this whole process of transforming the world. So it says that Yaakov, he took from the Charona, he went to Charona, he put the letter Hey into Charon. This is a little bit different than what we just learned in Torah Or. To transform the world to what it's supposed to be. Sometimes you get these movies, that everybody is depressed, the enemy is coming, and everybody's depressed, and they're all good. And one person stands up and he says, no, we can do it. We must fight. Give me liberty and give me death. And all of a sudden he just inspires everybody and they fight and they win. Well, it's the same thing over here. That's what the Jews are supposed to be in the world for. The Jews are supposed to, everybody is, and the world says, oh, the world is too powerful. Let's just get out of here. Maybe we'll go to heaven. I got this religion. Believe in this guy, believe in this. We're going to go to heaven. And the Jews say, no, we can do it. We're in the world. Be brave. Be enthusiastic. We can fix up the world. That's what Yaakov came in the world to do. To bring a new motivation for fixing up the world. That's what it says. The Yaakov came, Vayivka b'makom. He prayed. V'yolen sham, and he laid down there because the sun sank. The sun went down. Vayikach me'avnei hamakom, and he took from the stones of the place, and he put them under his head, and he laid down in that place. What's this got to do with us day to day? Listen, what's it got to do with Mashiach? We'll see. When a soul of a Jew comes down into the world and is put into a physical body in this world, the word for Hebrew, the word for world in Hebrew is the same letters as halem, concealment. Miyad, immediately, when the soul comes down, what happens? Bo Hashem is the sun sinks, goes down. Halem alagila conceals on the revelation of God. God is sometimes a metaphor of the sun, is a metaphor for God. Shemen umagin Hashem, Shemesh umagin Hashem Elokim. That God is called the sun and the shield over the sun. Shetotza amizeh. As a result from this, what happens? Vayishkav makomahu. He goes, lays down. What does it mean, laying down? Sharosh adam, that the head of a person, the highest thing, mishtaveh im regel, it becomes equal to his feet. People stop using their head. The feet become dominant. Al yedei ha'hel investor, the world becomes so confused that a person only uses all of his mind to think about what his body wants, right? His body wants. He knows that if he stands in front of a crowd and everybody's clapping, that makes him feel good. So now I just have to figure out with my head, how do I get this thing? I'm standing in front of a crowd and everybody's going to clap for me and I'll feel good. It doesn't make any difference if it's according to the Torah, it's not according to the Torah. Exactly the opposite. The Torah might make it that nobody's going to clap for me, right? So I'm going to do everything I can in order to get a bigger crowd, and they pay money. They pay money also, and I'll get money. I'll be rich. So the body overpowers the head. The head becomes on the same level as the body. That's what it means. Yaakov laid down to sleep. The physical and the mundane world is the lowest. It's nothing lower than it. Suddenly, this is on the same level as your head. And especially in the darkness of the exile, when it says that we don't see any miracles whatsoever. The Rebbe once said about the members of the Knesset in Israel, the governing body over here, it's called the Knesset. And he says it's the opposite of normal. The opposite of the people, the Knesset members are the opposite of normal. What's normal? Normal is a person sits on a chair. On the seat, you sit on your seat. By them, the seat sits on them. The seat is on their head. They'll do anything they can in order to keep their seat in the Knesset. Anything. They'll give land away. They'll let missionaries in. Anything. Just as long as they get a seat in the Knesset. That's the same thing here. The physical world overpowers you. Your head and your body became on the same level. Because of the darkness in the world. You don't know what your head is. You don't know what's your feet. You don't know what's right and what's wrong, especially now that we are in what's called the heels of the Moshiach, the lowest generation. We are now found in a situation of sleep and laying down. When these revealed powers are found concealed, so automatically the head and the feet are equal. And even more, this physical world becomes filled with klippas and sitra achra, becomes filled with shells and sitra achra, that they are against God. Not that the world conceals God. The world actively goes against God. Therefore, Yaakov had to take the stones. Why? Why did he take the stones? He said he put the stones around his head because he was afraid of fierce animals, damaging animals. Why did he put it only around his head? Because the main thing you have to protect is your head, your thoughts, your attitude. Oh, well, you read. So why did God do such a terrible thing? I mean, Yaakov was okay. He was a holy person. Why did God make all this trouble for him? Why? His brother's running after him, wants to kill him. He has to go down now to this terrible place, walking all alone. There's wild animals. And to Haran. Says, but because of this, it arouses the power of defiance in a person and arouses the power of good. Nifal Gilad is revelation of a spiritual power, the soul, even when the soul is in the body, even when your body, which you think is your best friend, it also becomes your enemy. Shagam b'matzav yarud, even when a person is in such a low situation as Vayolan Shom, he went to sleep and the sun went down and his head is on the same level, that his head is on the same level as his body, but nevertheless he can draw down holiness of his soul even into his body, and even more. And Yishkav l'maliyuso, he lies down in a good way. What does it mean? That the physical body unites with the soul. Don't say that the head goes down to the same level of the body. The body becomes the same level of the head. In other words, you do with your body only what you know is right. But al yudei, by means of this makes a complete wholeness, incomparable in the soul. The soul itself, by standing under this pressure and challenge, it becomes higher. We said this before also, but I'll say it again. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he was put into prison, communist prison, for about a month. And in that time, he was tortured there, and it was terrible. He was put into a single room, and there was like mud up to his knees, and there were all these, he could hear that there were all these spiders, whatever it is, crawling on the walls, and rats and things like that. And in addition to that, he was beaten there and everything. And the Rebbe said when he got out, which he got out miraculously, he said, we celebrate that, Yud Beit Tammuz. He said when the Rebbe got out, he said that to go back there for even 1 second, if you gave me all the money in the world, I wouldn't go back. He said, but to relinquish, to give up 1 minute of the experience that I had there, right? The victory that I had from being able to stand and being connected to God, even in such a terrible situation, to give that up, I wouldn't, give me all the money, I wouldn't give it up. To return to the tortures, $1 million, I wouldn't return there, even for a minute. But to give up the victory that I had, because I went through that situation, that I'd never give that up also for 1,000,000 years. The soul becomes elevated by standing against tests. Sometimes people become broken also. Sometimes people become broken. You can go crazy, right? That there's post-traumatic syndrome. It's true, of course. That's a test. That's the whole idea of the test. But we have the powers to withstand it. Now we can understand what some people ask, what it says in the stand, how could it possibly be that Yaakov went to sleep in that place? Where was that place? That place was the place of the Holy Temple. It says Yaakov went to sleep in the same place that was the place where Yitzchak Abraham took Yitzchak to sacrifice him. This was the place of the Holy Temple where the Holy of Holies was, or where the altar was. Anyway, Yaakov was in this holy place and he went to sleep. Why did he go to, how could he go to sleep? He knew it was a holy place. Even though it's true that the sun suddenly set, not in the proper time, in order that he would go to sleep there. But the rabbis say, they say, Kan Shachav, that here he went to sleep, but 14 years previously, he didn't go to sleep. He was learning Torah. It says when he ran away from Esau, from his father, he immediately went and into the place of learning of Shem Ve'aver, and he concealed himself there. 14 years learned Torah without stopping, didn't go to sleep. How this is possible, I don't know. Kan Shachav, here he lay down. Maybe he went to sleep for a minute at a time, I don't know. But nevertheless, 14 years he didn't sleep, it says. Aval Shachav Kan, but here he did lay down. But all the 20 years that he was in the house of Lavan afterwards, he also, it says he didn't go to sleep. When he was working for Lavan, it says that he didn't, in night and day, he was watching over the sheep, right? He didn't go to sleep. I mean, it could be that it means he didn't get a normal sleep. In other words, he would only sleep, let's say, 5 minutes at a time or 10 minutes at a time or something, because you can't go that long without sleep. But maybe not. Maybe he didn't sleep at all. That's what it says, he didn't sleep. In any case, he died. Specifically, when did he go to sleep? When he reached this place of the Holy Temple, where the Holy Temple was going to be built, and then Yaakov went to sleep. It could be that he didn't know it was the Holy Temple, because he said, this is a holy place, I didn't know it was holy. But still, he had a feeling. How did God arrange it that this is the place where he went to sleep? From this, we can understand that when he went to sleep, it must be something good. What? Exactly the opposite. It must be the highest thing. This was represented, this was revealed in this place. It was after 14 years of learning Torah. He was at a tremendously high level. Now he was going to go into a tremendous challenge. He had to have power to take this challenge of being by Lavan and establishing the Jewish people, getting married, having 12 tribes. So this going to sleep was a result of 14 years of learning Torah, the highest, and it was a preparation for what was going to be. So let's see explanation. The difference between standing up and laying down, standing up, sitting, and laying down, Amida, Yeshiva, Bishchiva, is Be'et Amida when a person is standing up, and also when a person is sitting down. Nikar Begila, you can see clearly the difference between the top of a person, his head, and the lower part, his feet. Shezeu Elyon Shemani Getatachton. This means that the head controls the body. Which is not the case when a person lays down or goes to sleep. Then the highest part of his body, the head, and the lower part of his body are equal, like we said before. What does this mean spiritually? We said before, spiritually is a terrible thing. That your body rules over your head. Your head doesn't control it. It's like an animal, right? A dog or whatever it is, a cat. The head is on the same level as the body. That's not good, says the Rebbe, but it can also be very good. Spiritually, it means that the highest part of a person, this means et tochno umahuto aruchni. This is all of his spiritual, how do you say, spiritual urges and awareness. The lowest part of the person, this is the physical, what he's aware of in the physical world. So now we can understand that even though that's simply in a revealed way, when a person lays down, is when the highest part of a person, the spiritual part, becomes equal to the lower part. So this is a tremendous descent. This is like a person sort of becoming like an animal, right? His head and his body are on the same level. And because the body is much bigger, so the body dominates over the head. Nevertheless, so it's a bad thing laying down, right? Says the Rebbe, not exactly. Listen. If you look at the source of this laying down, there's something which is the highest of the highs. Only in this, you can find the highest part is together with the lowest part, equal. This could be bad, but it could also be good. When you reveal, when a person is standing up, he thinks that the highest part of his personality is his head, his thoughts, his aspirations, his revelations, his awareness, his consciousness. But when a person is laying down, this in some way is something above the head. It's the essence of the person, the essence of God. When a person is, this is a level which is totally above any of the higher and low. Both of them become equally total. Like it's known, that the simplicity of a simple person, that by him there is no intelligence, is attached to the simpleness of the essence of God. Sometimes a simple Jew can reach the highest levels of truth. This is drawn down afterwards also by when a person when a person stands up from laying down, that also there in a place where a person is, he feels that there is a difference between head and foot. He stands up, but also after he's laid down and he realizes that everything is equal, then when he stands up, he still has that same revelation that my head and my feet, they're both creations of God. They're both just vehicles for revealing God. So then this is what draws down God's essence in the world. And then you can see the difference between high and low only in just the description of them. But the essence of them is the same. Both of them are just aspects and revelations of God's essence. God wants me to be a head, have a head and a body. He wants the head to rule over the body, but it doesn't mean that the head is superior. It doesn't mean the head is superior. It doesn't mean that because I think something, then it's necessarily right. Sometimes it could be my feelings are right. Sometimes you have to ignore what you think in order to do what's right. Kolomer, Shabbat, so when this person serves, a Jew serves God, when he comes up from Beersheba, a high place, and he's going to a low place, he says, there's two things. First of all, in addition to the fact that he has to have the spiritual has to overpower the physical, right? His ideas have to overpower his urges, his senses to the world, in a way that the physical world doesn't conceal. But it becomes a vessel for spirituality. The physical world, as it is physical, despite the fact that it has the power to conceal God, but it can also bring a unity between the physical and the spiritual by means of revealing the essence of God, which is above both of them. So what are we talking about? I'll give you a terrible example. There was in the history of Judaism, after the King Solomon died, so the kingdom of Israel split. There was the northern part of Israel, that was called Yisrael, and the bottom part was called Yehuda. In the Yisrael part, there were 10 tribes, and in Yehuda, there was 2 tribes. The king of Israel was chosen by God. God sent a prophet, and he went to this person called Yerovam ben Nevat. And Yerovam ben Nevat was an incredible genius, Torah genius. He knew all the secrets of the Torah. He knew all the legal aspects of the Torah. He knew everything. And he was a leader, and he was charismatic, and he was chosen to be the king. As soon as he became the king, all of a sudden he started to use his mind. And his mind started saying, hey, I don't want the people in my 10 tribes to go down to the area of the other 2 tribes. Why would they go down? Because that's where the Holy Temple is. So he said, I don't want people to go to the Holy Temple. So he made guards, and he built 2 golden calves, and he said, you can't go down to the southern part anymore, and you don't have to. We have 2 golden calves. How did he do such a thing? He went against God. He says, all of a sudden, greatness went to his head. What was he lacking? He was lacking humility. Humility means that you have to ignore your head. He was the biggest genius that there was in the world. Right? It was the biggest genius. But his genius was what brought him down. And he explained to the people, to the 10 tribes, why it was okay to do this. He explained to all the rabbis and everybody that it was okay to worship golden calves. How he did it, I don't know. I'm not a genius, but he was. He used his mind, he used his genius mind to explain to everybody why it's okay to worship idols and not go to the Holy Temple. Like for about 200 years, no one went to the Holy Temple. The Holy Temple was their first temple. Nobody in the 10 tribes went down. Incredible. So that it shows that what should he have done? He should have ignored his thinking and just gone according to what the essence is. God, he knows that God doesn't want a golden calf. He had a million reasons to convince himself that God does want it, but deep in his essence, he knew that it was wrong. He had to negate all of this logic that he had. The same thing is here. If we can succeed in devoting ourselves to the essence of God, then we'll realize that our brain and our consciousness are only servants of the Creator. Then that makes equal the world and the spiritual and the physical. Everything can be revealed. That's the whole idea of Yaakov laying down and going to sleep. It's what's called, how do you call it? Mesirut Nefesh, Kabbalat all. That Yaakov's body became the same thing as his head. Both of them are just vehicles, vessels, instruments to serve the creator of the universe. And that's what he did by making them equal, ignoring his own feelings. That, by the way, is what fixes up the sin of eating from the tree of knowledge and good and bad. That Adam felt himself that it was good to eat from this tree. God told him not to, but that was just an idea. What he felt was it would be good for him to eat from this tree. And he went after his feelings. Sometimes it's an okay thing to do. But if it's clearly against the Torah, you can't do it. That's what Yerovam ben Nevat did. He went according to his feelings. And he used his feelings, was a very, very spiritual person. That Yaakov wanted to make that the feelings and intellect equally devoted to the creator of the universe. That's why he laid down and went to sleep. This is a lesson for us on surrender to the truth, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Yeah. Yaakov, he saw a ladder standing on the ground. This ladder for us is prayer. Prayer is a ladder that connects the souls and God. And even though it stands on the ground, in the Torah it says in the direction of the ground, it kept going down. The beginning of davening is more just acknowledgement. We're just saying, okay, maybe there is God, maybe not. I don't know what it is. I don't feel God. But okay, I'll stand and I'll pray because maybe God really does exist. That's the beginning. But the top reaches to the heavens, a state of total self-devotion. And he says nullification to the creator. But one reaches this level, you have to, first of all, use your mind and your understanding. And in the sentences, the Psalms that we say, what's called Psuki de Zimra. And then we get to the blessings of Shema. And then we say Shema. An important thing is that the prayer is a ladder. You look in the Jewish prayer book, it's very, very essential to understand the words of prayer. It's best to pray in Hebrew. Hebrew is a conducive language to godliness, to talking about God. If you read it in English, you can also pray in English, but it's not the same thing, I exalt you and I benefactor, all these words that you don't know what you're talking about. In Hebrew, these words are very, very exact, but you have to know what they mean. You have to know the translation. Saying words in Hebrew without the translation, it's a type of devotion to God, but God wants us to activate all of our soul, including our emotions and our intellect. So you have to understand the words of prayer. Once you do understand the words of prayer, the simple meaning, then when you pray, you start to think, well, what has this got to do with me? What has it got to do with God? And then the prayer becomes a ladder. It raises you up. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow, 3:00 today will be Chumash, I hope, with Meforshim. Be with us, 3:00. We're going to learn today about the birth of Jacob's sons, the 12 tribes. Have a good day with Moshiach.